about to send a rod through the side of it.
How's it going? I'm Michael and this is Budget Bills. My dad and I bring rusty, crusty old cars back to life.
What's happening, Budget Builders, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're gonna save this 67 F100. Now this truck was parked here in 1980, 40 years ago, and has 67,000 original miles. Now this is actually the location that we got our 66 F350. We've been trying for about 2 years to get this truck, and we finally been able to get it from the family. Now sadly, a few months ago, you can see a tree did fall on this. It dented in the bed, which I don't think will be too bad, and it did crunch in the bed cap. I think we're gonna build a little bit of a jig to be able to press it up and hopefully pop that the rooftop back up on the truck. Now what we want to go ahead and do, I think will be really fun, we've been wanting to do with this truck, we got permission to do it, is we're going to go through, see if we can get this thing to, let me rephrase that, we're going to get this thing to run and we are going to drive it home roadkill style. I think it'll be super fun and I hope you guys will enjoy. A little bit of sticky hinges, not too bad. Obviously it's been covered up. And what we have there is a 240 inline 6. Now obviously it looks like someone had been doing some repair to it. We do have the distributor in there with all our wires and everything. Thankfully, although it's missing the air cleaner and the oil cap here, it does look decent. Obviously we're missing the thermostat neck, the water pump, the fuel pump. So let's go ahead really quick. Let's pull out our tools. Let's pull these spark plugs, kind of inspect those cylinders and ensure this engine turns over. What's kind of cool is we actually bought a room full of machinist tools and stuff from the family. And in that we had a lot of the replacement parts that are missing here. So we should have no issue getting this thing back together. I don't know if he was doing a kind of fixing this thing up. We kind of pulled it off the road. You know, you're getting close up to that 100,000 miles when stuff was worn out back in the day. And you know, you can kind of tell this one has lower mileage. I think our F350 had closer to 160, 70,000 miles. And you can see how nasty that engine was. Compared to this one is realistically fairly clean. But let's go ahead, pull those spark plugs, see if it'll turn over, and get this thing going. Got a coil wire? Well, it doesn't look too bad. It's actually not gassy at all. Are you kidding me? I didn't have this recording. Okay, so apparently the camera wasn't recording. Oh man! Right now I'm putting the spark plugs back in. We did pull them. All of them look great. All 6 of them look really good. No moisture. Engine turns over very nicely. So we've gone ahead. We ran to the store, picked up a few service items so we can hopefully get this thing fired off. And I am installing spark plugs now. We can go ahead and let's pull our distributor cap. It had a brand new cap. That's obviously not, it's brand new on the inside. Obviously you can tell it's been sitting for, well, 40 years. So although it does have a very nice clean points of condenser, I am going to go ahead and replace those because you know how often stuff like that fails. At least needs to be cleaned. I've had them where sometimes you can clean them, sometimes you just can't. It's a $6 part. Let's go ahead and just replace it. Thank you. All right. We'll go ahead and do our condenser first, which is just this flathead screw here. Once you get that off, take that nut loose there. Go ahead and pull it. Then we can go ahead and pull our points as well. Now this thing still has quite a bit of good grease on it, so I don't think we're gonna have to worry about that. Now I did go ahead and set it on our lobe. So let me snug that up there. Go ahead and set our gap. We do need to dig around in here and see what kind of parts we have that need to go with the truck. Let's see. Looks like it had a replacement master cylinder. Nice. Well, this wasn't gonna happen. Oh geez. Hydraulic it's rebuild kits for wheel cylinders. No thank you. Alright, we've got the water pump.
Well, that's a tease.
Oh, that's... Alright, so we got our new starter and a bin of random bolts. I'm gonna slide up onto this truck and see if we can get a starter on. Beautiful. Found some nuts. Dad's doing some brakes. As you can see, with our starter installed, we need to go ahead and do a starter solenoid. I could try that one. They're really cheap, and trust me, you want to go ahead and just do them because they're junk. I've got new battery cables. Sometimes I would just use them, but we wanted to be safe with this. So we've got new battery cables. Want to go to the battery to here, to the starter, to here, to the battery, and then a new ground cable. So let's go to get this pulled and get those installed. All right, here's our new solenoid. All right, got our cable hooked up. I did throw some zip ties in there, so it's on there good. This was a little too short, so I have it connected right here on our top manifold bolt, which is normally a good spot to hook up to. I just filed it down and cleaned it up a little bit. We can throw a battery in here. Let's verify it's a neutral and see if it'll turn over on its own. All right. Let's verify there's nothing down in the intake. Not much. All right, now the shifter seems like it may be a little, I don't know if it's stuck or if it's been stacked, or I'm thinking the clutch may be a little stuck, but the rear tires are off the ground. So let's go ahead and see if it wants to turn over. We go red to hot right here. It sounds like it wants to crank. I'm gonna go ahead and run a hot, because we do not have an ignition switch. I'm gonna jump out our coil here. We'll run 12 volts to it, and then let's see if we have fire. We're gonna see if we can get this whole tree moved out of the way. Probably heavier. Don't hurt yourself, don't let it hurt you. If it's gonna hurt you, we'll cut it. All right, one thing that I want to go ahead and do is see what we have going on with this carburetor. Hopefully it's just had leaded fuel in it and it's not too terrible. We just got your two half-inch nuts on either side, throttle linkage and spring. Now she's kind of crispy, but let's go ahead and pop the top off and see what we're working with. Clean? It's clean as a pin. Not too shabby. Found a little friend. See you, little guy. Go somewhere else. I don't want him back here, no. That's your buddy. It'll run on that carburetor. As long as that accelerator pump decides to work. It tried to. Alright, now before we do a ton more here, a good bit of cranking over or anything, I do want to go ahead, let's drain that oil and pull the filter so we verify there's no water, any kind of trash or gunk or anything in there. And let's go to do that real quick. Thankfully, our oil, honestly, looks really good. And this one is not at all sludgy or anything. Like our 300. This is actually really clean. Now, just because of the length of this time this one has been sitting, I do want to pre-lube this filter a little bit, at least. All right, just nice and snug. And there's the boss calling. Now, as always, we want to put I like to put this STP oil treatment in here. Now, this has one of the highest zinc contents in an additive you can get out there. And so this is perfect for your older flat tappet solid lifter. I don't know if these have solid lifters or not, but this is good for your older vehicles that used to use lead gas back in the day. Alright, so I have our coil jumped out. Now my jumper was too short, so we've kind of got it makeshifted here. But I want to go ahead and turn it over, see if we can pick up some oil pressure and see if we have fire. It's sparking somewhere, I hear it.
I hear something, but I don't see
This
nothing.
must be too far away.
Yep, oh yeah.
Good fire?
Oh yeah.
Alright. We got good fire. Alright, so we're trying to beat the dark. Dad's in here throwing the master cylinder. Now that master cylinder was with the truck. It's quite a few years old, so hopefully the seals in it are good. I'd say it's probably every bit of 20 or 30 years old or so as far as the receipts that were with it. Now what I need to go ahead and do is get a thermostat housing installed, which we didn't have when we got one that goes to a 302. Hopefully it'll go on there. We need to get our water pump on and our fan and everything and our belt. So let's go ahead and knock that out really quick because we're getting close to being dark and I hadn't seen if this thing has headlights or not. All right, so we got our fuel tank up there, run through our filter into here. We've got our fuel pump. It's getting a little dark. Got our fuel pump zip tied in here and a bunch of craziness going on. I'm gonna go ahead and see if we can prime up that carburetor and let's see if it'll crank and run on its own. Woo, that sounds terrible, whatever that is. There might be a reason he was going to pull the motor. About to send a rod through the side of it. Hey, it got better. Maybe there's something on the flywheel. High five, dude. I say dude. Dad, man. Alright, well we got it running. Obviously we do have a little bit of racket going on there, or we did to begin with, and it quieted right up. I don't think it was internal on the engine. possibly it was dry to begin with and they picked up oil pressure, but I really don't think so. I think what we actually had going on there was possibly a clutch issue, something in the clutch housing there, or possibly a throwout bearing. But once we run it a little bit there, a couple times, it cleared right on up and sounds really good, as y'all heard. So I think we're gonna be good to go. We just need to, obviously it is pouring rain here and it is dark, or just about dark. So we are gonna wrap this up this evening and we will catch y'all in the morning. And we're back. It's the next morning and it's time to get this truck finished up. First thing we want to go ahead and do, let's finish up, or let's get going on our brakes, get them wrapped up so we know we can safely get home and stop when it's time to do that. Obviously we got the truck running. We did have some funny noise, but it cleared up once we run it a little bit. I do need to get the water pump and everything installed, and our radiator and our other systems, so we know we're good to go to be able to get home. Let's get started. All right, with the correct gasket installed on the water pump, it's time to throw it on the truck. All right, so we are missing the fuel pump and we are not able to get one on short notice. So we have our electric. We got the sawzall too.
Yeah. Oh.
And we are making one. So we are missing a radiator and we don't have one here, and we weren't able to get one on short notice, but thankfully the Comet lent us a hand. Because we actually are installing, we actually have installed a new one on the Comet. All right, we've got our neck and a top hose. Now we couldn't get one in time, so I did borrow this off of the 66. Now, the radiator in the 66 started leaking the other day anyway, so we need to pull it out to redo it. So I went ahead, pulled this. We'll order a new one for the 66 and have it back up and running extremely shortly, because that is my daily driver, pretty much. Now I am running this without a thermostat for the time being, especially with this being open. There might be some nuts and junk up in here. We don't want to block off the thermostat and overheat. Well, we've got a cooling system again. Let's see if this block has a hole in the side of it or what. Other than the radiator spewing.
Radiator? I think you did. Oh. I got that in the comments. Oh my.
Darn.
Because it wasn't that.
It must have hit it down on that thing. Son of a gun. Looks like we're gonna have to keep adding water to this thing on the way home. Now it might be kind of goofy, but we do want to take the time to reattach this exhaust, just so we're not completely blowing a bunch of soot in the engine bay and we're not backfiring a bunch or anything. So we want to go ahead and do that real quick.
Is that a hanger?
Yeah.
Oh, that's an exhaust hanger.
All right, with everything starting to smooth out under that engine bay, we can go ahead and work on our brakes. Now, as we've been doing this, my dad has been going around and doing one by one, but we will go ahead and do one full rebuild right here for y'all so you can see everything that goes into rebuilding your front drum brakes. First thing's pull the wheel off. Next thing you do is let Dad finish it.
Oh, no.
He said, oh no. Good old bar supply. I wish you just put a glove on. But what fun would that be? He's gonna continue here, and I'm gonna work on the fuel system. All right, so we did have just a little bit of rust in the end of the line, but once we poked it through and then we blew it out with that new master cylinder, it just cleared right up. So we're gonna go ahead and hook it up. We're gonna have to do each side and the rears individually. There you go. All right, got our battery in. The battery share is a little rotten, so I had to make a bracket here. Wire tied that on. Radiator's wire tied in. Got our fuel system hooked up here. Now we do have an air cleaner to put on right there. We were missing this throttle linkage, so I took some wire tie, made a throttle linkage. We've got our cover plate there. Our wires jumped out for ignition and everything. Where the radiator was leaking, I took and just globbed a bunch of RTV in there. I think that'll get us there. It's had enough time to dry. We did bleed all the brakes. They bled through fairly decently. The rears act like they might have a little bit of a blockage, but they are working. We'll see. We think they're working. Got our fuel line run through, and we get to ride around with that fuel tank. But I didn't bring enough to run the fuel line all the way into the bed, which there's no bed left. We don't want to drop it down anyways. But let's go ahead, top off our coolant, make sure our oil level looks good, fire the truck back off, let her ride a little bit, warm up, and see how she does. It's going to be really exciting to pull this thing out of here. I cannot wait. Carburetor, man. Now that will wrap it up for this episode. I just didn't want to get it too crazy long, but don't worry, I will upload the part 2 and can we drive it home Monday evening. So if you all enjoy this kind of stuff, this reviving, the saving these cars that we enjoy doing, be sure to hit the subscribe button and notification bell. Thank you all so much for the positive love and support that we have on this channel. We really do appreciate all of our subscribers. Peace out and catch y'all on the flip side.